I'm so happy to have on Sage Steele on the show today. Sage is an Indiana grad. Of course, I attend Purdue University, but we can put our differences aside for 10 or 15 minutes. Let's get started. What was a young Sage Steele like in junior year of college or sophomore year of college?
Um, Shy, not very confident, insecure, but man, had a big dream. I dreamt big. I was encouraged to dream big by my parents. So I was 11 when I announced that I wanted to announce to my family that I wanted to be a sportscaster. So by that time, I was well into my time, obviously, at IU and was in my major, sports communication, broadcast. You could choose broadcast or print at the time, and I knew I wanted to do the broadcast side of it. So I was knee deep in those core classes and trying to have fun at the same time. And I was able to. I had a blast at IU. Best 5 years of my life is how I describe it. Yeah, it was a great time.
And what was it like to see IU in football do wonderful last year? What did that mean to you?
I didn't really believe it at first. I'm like, yep, I've been hearing this my whole life, and it is now legit. It is legit, I think. I think they go into the preseason, well, the regular season here ranked 20th, right around, depends on which poll you look at. And to be thought of like that before the season, really, really gets going is just super cool. Listen, I've always respected Purdue's football. When I was coming out of IU in my early days in TV, Joe Tiller was the head football coach at Purdue, and he was so kind to me, so nice to me that I always um, pulled for Purdue in that way because you guys have always had great people. Matt Painter is one of my favorite people. I've never met him. I'm just saying from a sports basketball coaching perspective. He is awesome. I used to, say terrible things to him when he was a player playing against us all those years ago because he's my age. So yeah, I've always had a lot of respect for Purdue, even though I was taught to hate you.
And of course, both campuses are beautiful.
I
That
have never been to Purdue, but West Lafayette, I'm sorry, is not pretty.
Purdue's campuses, I gotta say. I will say Bloomington, the area is very nice, so I'll give you credit there.
The rolling green hills. I was there on campus a week and a half ago. And like I always knew it was pretty when I was younger, but it is stunning. And I have a lot of people who've, been throughout all the campuses in the Big Ten, people who are unbiased and are like, IU's got the prettiest campus in the Big Ten. So I'm gonna say that that's a win for us there.
I'll give you that. So obviously after IU, you went into the sports world. You said you spent 5 wonderful years at IU. I'm sure it was a lot of fun. I have many friends that go to IU. What's it like going from college to that first job, and what is a lesson that you learned right off the bat in the real world?
Do anything anyone asks you to do to further learn about your career. Like I was a broadcast major. I didn't want to be running someone else's teleprompter. I didn't want to be shooting high school football highlights. I didn't want to be editing them. I wanted to be talking about them and telling stories. But the best thing I ever got the opportunity to do, because I didn't ask to do it, they said, if you want this for your first job in South Bend, WSBT TV, the CBS affiliate, um, we're going to put you in a trainee position where you get to learn all about it. And so I started, way, way, way behind the camera. And it was the best experience. And I started off then as a producer before I got on the air. And then almost my whole career was producing things at the same time as being on the air. So that gave me a true appreciation for what it takes. The true team that it takes behind the scenes for one of us to put our mug on TV, and we get all the credit. But I'm from an army family, a military family, and my dad was a colonel when he retired in West Point, and he was always a leader, but he never took credit. And he was like, "I am nothing without my troops, without my soldiers." And so that's the mentality I always had was to make sure I had really, really good teammates. They made me look good, and I tried to represent them well. So do whatever it takes to learn about all the X's and O's of your industry. And remember, without those people behind the scenes, you are nothing. And sometimes I think people forget that.
100% agree with you. And what is something, obviously, you worked at ESPN for 16 years. You got to cover a variety of things. You worked in a variety, different number of roles at ESPN. What would you say is something that had changed, not from a culture standpoint or a political standpoint, but from a standpoint of technology? What is something that has changed from when you started to when you left ESPN in that time frame? How do you seen the game change and a technology standpoint as well, being in front of the camera?
Gosh, there were so many things that it happened gradually. So I feel like we weren't like, oh, wow, because it really happened a little bit more every single year. I started there in 2007. Um, I mean, the internet was obviously, going, but what was available then versus my last couple years there, we weren't at first even allowed to have our cell phones on set with us. And then for me, number one, I had little kids. I wanted to make sure I could stay in contact if there was an emergency, but I never really picked up the phone. But then with how quickly information was coming and how quickly people wanted it at home, I would be in commercial breaks, 60 seconds left in a commercial break, and I had my phone and I would think of something different that I wanted to ask Adam Schefter, like a different question, someone like Adam or Tim Legler, our NBA analyst. And I would real quick, I'm like, da 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 da, Google it, look it up, get the answer, and it would change my question, which my goal was only to make sure I asked the best questions to be representative of the fans at home who didn't have access to these people, these analysts or athletes. So the ability to just use these to educate yourself quickly, to stay up on news which is what I think was the biggest change in social media and Twitter, and how people announce news, break news on X now, before when it was all, wait, let me make a phone call to the editor. Adam Schefter, you're on the other side of the ESPN campus. Can you be on in 10 minutes? Let me run over that. I mean, stuff breaks now on ESPN airwaves and elsewhere after it's on X. So I think that counts as technology. It really changed everything, changed the way we do things. Obviously, you look at even the sets themselves and how they built them and the graphics and the ability to almost like teleport you from one part of the set to the other. It's really, really cool. At the end of the day, though, for me, it didn't change the way I did my job. Maybe I could do things faster, but my goal was to always maintain that and think really deeply about what the viewers want, what the fans want, not what we want as journalists, but what do our viewers want, and ask those kinds of questions. And if I can have technology help me out along the way, great. But it didn't ever change the core of my goal of why I was there.
And going forward, of course, in the future, artificial intelligence is going to have a big aspect in a lot of industries. Do you see massive cuts happening to people who are reporters in general, not just at ESPN, but even the David Muirs of the world, even the Tucker Carlsons of the world, even what I'm doing right now, what you're doing still with the Sage Steele Show, which is amazing, by the way. I loved your interview with Nicole Shanahan. Do you see AI taking interviews away?
Who knows? I would tell you, I'm late to the party of AI because I was like, what? We have all we need. What are we doing? I use it for a lot of things. It tends to research things quicker, but you also still have to be really careful. And where are they getting that information? The bots, right? To feed to you that you take as fact. Um, you've already seen a ton of cuts. I have Zachary Levi that show posted today, the Hollywood actor. And he talks a lot about AI. And what is that line? It's great to help us with so many things, but we are losing that human element in so many parts of our society because of AI. So, as usual, I feel like we always go too far and then try to reel it back in, and then damage is done. So, I think there's great things to it. You're certainly going to see more cuts, is what it feels like. Think about just a call center. If you're calling in because you need to talk to someone, you had a problem with, your purchase at Nordstrom. I mean, they don't want you to be on the phone with a human. You have to go through 5 minutes and pushing 8 different buttons and putting it before beg for a representative. That means humans don't have those jobs. So it's throughout every industry. And I worry about it, but I don't know that we can put the toothpaste back in the tube. at this point.
I appreciate hearing your take on that. And something that I find very nice is with your show, you have a very nice studio, you have a couch in there, and you're able to have really good conversations with guests. How important is it, would you say, to be able to have a good setting when you're conducting an interview?
That's a great question, one that I've never been asked actually. And when I first started the show, March of 24 out in Los Angeles, it was under Club Random, Bill Maher's podcast network, which is now no longer in existence. I left on my own in like September. And been doing it on my own and kind of in every way on my own since then, which has been really challenging and really awesome. But the set that they built me there was phenomenal. And that was, I mean, they asked my vision and I was able to help with that process. And I wanted it to be warm. I wanted it to be comfortable. That's why I have this weird thing with, it's not weird, but it's just, maybe it is weird. I don't know. The fuzzy socks, like that's a thing on my show where if I can bring them with me, depending on the guest, um, you know, when we sit down in a comfortable chair on a comfortable couch, take our shoes off. Like right now, I'm sitting here with my legs crossed kind of right up underneath me just because I'm comfortable talking and having a conversation that way. So I wanted my guests to feel that too. Um, I've since decided, I think really since the end of the year, beginning of 2025, I'm taking my show on the road. People say yes if you come to them. Quite often it's easier because for the conversations I have, I can't do a Zoom. It would be so much easier. It would be so much cheaper. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't be living on airplanes across the country right now. But when you're building, there's certain things that you have to do, and I want to. I got to go into Roseanne Barr's house and living room and sit there with her for 2 days on her back porch with her grandkids there and just sit and talk and have a glass of wine because I was in her space where she's comfortable. I was in Dr. Drew's home a couple of weeks ago in Los Angeles for that episode. In his office, look, and his pictures of his children are right there. His dog was right there. His wife was right there. When you have someone in a place where they are comfortable, they'll open up more. And that's my goal is to have real conversations, not interviews, but conversations. So I just keep trying to create it wherever I go. The last two places we've been, I rented an Airbnb where there were a couple of bedrooms. So my producer stayed in one, me and my fiance were in the other one, and then the living room was our set. We wake up in the morning, we perfect it, we make it nice. Last week I was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'm interviewing Brett Favre. That interview comes out next Wednesday. And I went to his town. I've never been to Hattiesburg. Like, are you kidding me? So, it wasn't in his house, but it was in his town. One of kind of a hometown now. He's from down the road in Kill, Mississippi. But anyway, it's really important for me that people feel comfortable. And I feel like I've gotten good results from that because some of the conversations that we've gone into and the emotions that people have opened up and shared with me, I'm so honored. I know that it wouldn't happen if it were something that was just based in technology like this. It just depends on the format of your show. I love this. This serves an incredible purpose. And my Brett Favre podcast is 3 hours long, my longest one ever. And that only happens when you have a connection in person.
I totally agree, and I think I should start on my spring breaks, maybe going to interview people, and just as I'm single, so I have the money to do it. So go over there and interview people because I've had on Eric Trump, but it felt weird over Zoom, and then when I met him in person, it was like, oh, you're so tall, because I had never met him in person before, even though I had interviewed him. Um, the other thing I wanted to discuss real quickly was what is it like traveling all over? Is it always fun?
No. It used to be when I was younger, it used to be really fun. I still enjoy it because I always get to meet good people. You get to be reminded of how vast our country is and how beautiful it is and different demographics, different cultures within our own country. And I love that. I mean, I grew up as a military kid. I lived in 4 countries by the time I was 11 years old. So I really have always had an appreciation. And I think traveling is exciting. Right now, it's been a lot. I'm also doing a lot of speaking engagements, which I love, and some personal travel over the last 2 weeks. I was in North Carolina moving my son into his dorm for his senior year of college and at High Point. And then last week in Mississippi, before going to Hattiesburg, I was in Oxford, Mississippi, moving my daughter in to her apartment for her sophomore year at Ole Miss. Um, my parents are in Jacksonville. My fiance lives in Nashville, so I'll be back and forth from there a lot. I'm getting married in Nashville next week. Like, I'm exhausted, Jacob. However, I just feel like I'm going to look back on these years and be like, wow, what a journey. And I just jumped on a plane and went to people. I mean, I'm my own booker right now. I'm doing all the booking of all my guests right now. It's really hard when you're trying to be the host and the producer and be a mom of three kids and keeping up two households. And like, it's hard. And the older you get, when you're not single, and then you have other mouths to feed, like it's legit pressure. But I will say this, I get to do it. I get to do this. I think back, I just passed the 2-year anniversary of my departure from ESPN. I loved every minute of that journey, even the BS, some of the stuff at the end that they, chose to put me through and many others. It's not just me. I just was the one that spoke up. Um, and I really thought I would miss it. I miss some people, but I swear I can't believe how much I don't miss it because it was time. I had done more than I ever dreamt of there. My dream was to get on SportsCenter, and I did it in 2007 and then did it, for all those years. And beyond that was like incredible. But now I get to dictate what I want to do. I get to dictate who I want to talk to. I get to dictate that I want to talk to you, Jacob from Purdue, who I never thought I would. Where before, I had to ask permission to breathe almost. And that's part of it. It was an incredible run there. So it's a lot and I'm tired, but I am not complaining because what a blessing. And to be able to make your own choices and have your own control of your life and freedom. I love what you're doing. You're doing so much. I mean, this stuff didn't exist when I was your age for sure. I mean, when I did fantasy baseball, Jacob, when I graduated from IU and was in my first job in South Bend. If you're in a fantasy baseball league back then, you have to subscribe and have a newspaper delivered to your house every day. And every day you open it up to the sports section, you take it out, and then you get a calculator and you look at the box scores for every single baseball game and you do math on your calculator and then you plug it into a chart. Like fantasy now, are you kidding me? Everybody's so spoiled. It just you open it up on your phone and there's your score. No, we had to work so hard. And baseball, 17 games of football versus 162 games of baseball. Oh my gosh. So I think everybody now is soft with all the technology compared to that. So anyway, I went on different tangents there. The beauty is the freedom. And I think you're already experiencing that. Like you're booking who you want in between classes, right? Like that's awesome. I would
I don't
suggest
look
you're on
as good as you.
your what?
I said, I'm sorry I don't look as good as you. When
Uh,
I
you're
on
you're a, you're a guy, and I'm old, so I have to clean up, or else I won't have a job. No, I hope that you are an example to others who are interested in this business because networks are great and they'll always be there, but it's never yours. And the fact that you already feel this freedom, it would be hard to give up, I think, because you're getting to create on your own. I never realized that it was possible. That's why I wouldn't change any part of my journey. I get to do this now, and I'm freaking tired. But I'm also showing my kids that, one that just graduated college and two who are still in college, to go after that dream, even when it's really scary. Look what can happen. Freedom.
100%. And I feel young giving advice, but I gotta say on that one, you're 100% correct. I always like to end with three quick fireball questions, not fireball shots. There are no shots around, even though I mentioned
No.
it's a Wednesday. But anyways, what was the longest you ever went without sleep in the sports world? 3 days on the road? 4 days?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, without good sleep, I'd say that whole run of the NBA playoffs. So I was hosting NBA Countdown out in Los Angeles, and we would start traveling. We'd be in studio for the early rounds of the playoffs, and then we'd go on the road for the conference finals and the finals. And it depended on which year it was because ESPN ABC would rotate with TNT and still does, who gets Western Conference and Eastern Conference in the playoffs. And then finals would always come to ESPN ABC. And that stretch where you're just going back and forth, and depending on your playoff format, depending on what year it was, 2-3-2, 2-2, 1-1-1, like it doesn't matter. Like, how about the series with the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder? So you're going back and forth. I live here in South Florida now. Do you see the beach behind me? That's not a fake background. That's my backyard. And sorry, West Lafayette, Indiana. But like you're going from South Florida to Oklahoma City. That's not easy to get to. They're not booking us private planes. And so especially when it's the 1-1-1 format, like you're back and forth. And then you're doing shows. Then you're up really early morning for SportsCenter, or sometimes they'd have me on Good Morning America. And so that's you're getting up early and it's full makeup and hair and statistics and research and writing your stuff. And like it was chaos, but I loved it. And I thrived on that chaos. I thrived on the excitement of it. And then here I am standing on the court, the edge of the court before game seven of the NBA Finals with Stephen Curry right there, shooting right over me, got hit in the head a couple of times. And it's very stressful. Oh my gosh, because I would host the entire 6 p.m. Sports Center live from the court by myself. I'd have guests come in, Stephen A. Smith or whoever it was. And you're just like, go, 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 trying to ignore what's going on behind you, ignore the fact that there's millions of people watching, ignore the fact that as soon as you're done, you got to run up the steps and host pregame for NBA. Oh my gosh. But I loved every second and the exhaustion was worth it. Has it taken a toll now that I'm 52? Yeah. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I can't do it. But I'm doing it. And I feel very grateful that God has kept me healthy enough. He has helped my body withstand the abuse that I have put on it by being like, no, I can do this. No, one more. Yes, you say yes. So that's the other piece of advice I'd give is say yes, especially in your career, but also take that time for yourself, exercise, eat well, because later you'll feel the difference.
I hope you're right about it because I do exercise. I also do enjoy to have fun in college, I'm not gonna lie.
You need to.
Yes, especially at Purdue because it's West Lafayette. And two other ones. What is your favorite airport to travel through? This is a quick one.
It's my favorite airport. You know what? Nashville. I love BNA because everywhere you go, they have country music singers in bars or just over near whatever coffee shop. And they're people who are working their tails off for their dream, you know, and they have beautiful voices and so much talent just want to be discovered and they're working in the airport. So I love that because the airport's a stressful place, but it does keep you more calm because you hear their music. So BNA.
And if you had to pick any country to go back to, because obviously you were born in Panama, if I'm correct, your dad was in the military, what country would it be? Or if you haven't lived there yet, what country would it be if you had to pick one? Obviously, the USA you always want to live in, but if you had to maybe pick one,
Number one. Yes, we're number one. But I lived in Greece as a kid. I remember in third grade, my teacher, Miss Kakiakis, she was Greek. We would go to the Acropolis on a field trip for the day. Like literally, those were our field trips. Here, you go to the zoo. You know what I mean? You go to a museum. I would go to the Acropolis. When I lived in Belgium, we would go to Paris for the day with my Girl Scout troop. Like I lived in some cool places. I would go back to Greece though. I was back there 2 years ago with my parents and my kids. I wanted my kids to see where I lived in 1979 and 1980. And we went back to the apartment with my parents where we lived 40 plus years ago. It's such a beautiful country. The food is insane. The culture is just very welcoming to Americans. They appreciate us and our business. So yeah, I would go back to Greece. It just holds so many great memories for me and my two younger brothers. Actually, no, my younger one wasn't born yet. Me and my one brother and my parents and my dad, who is 79 years old, still speaks Greek fluently. So, 80-year-old, big, tall American black man walks in and they're shocked when they hear him just beautifully speaking their language. So he gets us a lot of free stuff. So I'd want to go back to Greece with my mom and dad.
amazing. Well, Sage, I appreciate you joining the show today, and can't wait to see more of your interviews out on the Sage Steele Show, which is obviously on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, all of the good ones. And thank you so much for your advice for not just young people, but advice in general, and giving us a background for anybody who listens on the sports industry and what travel's like in it and being in front of the camera. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me and congrats to you for what you're doing. Really, really awesome. Keep it up.